I'm so excited today to have Andrew Palosi on the podcast. With 20 years of experience working in various positions in marketing, Andrew is the CEO at AdLeverage, a full service media and tech agency. He leads a cross functional team of over 80 people, building unique traditional and digital campaigns that help fuel efficient revenue growth for their partners. He's deeply passionate about creating an environment of growth, accountability, and seamlessly integrating trusted products and processes that help make complex marketing decisions just a bit easier. He also currently serves as the CEO for DataCubeai, a data visualization SaaS tool incubated within AdLeverage. This leverages artificial intelligence and automated cross-platform computations to create custom performance dashboards for just about any KPI tracking department within an organization. And Andrew, I'm so glad that you're here. Thanks for being on the show today.
Awesome to be here. Thank you so much. I didn't realize I did all those things until you said it again there.
Welcome to Catalytic Leadership, the podcast designed to help leaders intentionally grow and thrive. Here is your host, author, and leadership and executive coach, Dr. William Attaway.
I would love, Andrew, for you to begin by sharing just a little bit of your story with our listeners, particularly around your journey and your development as a leader.
It all started out of passion. I've always had a passion for advertising and marketing, and a passion for helping people. And, I was always fascinated with advertising. So, in college, I studied it, graduated with a degree in business and specialization in marketing and advertising. And then ended up moving out to Southern California and got an advertising sales job right out of college. And so knew nothing of the advertising business, the real business, not the textbook business, and knew nothing of the Los Angeles market. So, thankfully, I was able to work with some very smart folks. I was able to find a mentor in the business rather quickly. But it was legitimately the traditional, idea of a newbie in sales. Here's the phone book. Here's the media kit. Best of luck, kid. You make nothing until you go, you eat what you kill around here. So that's legitimately how it started. It was unbelievably, daunting and scary, but, I had a wife and a little one. And so I needed to figure it out. And so I put in the work and worked longer hours than anybody around me. I never went out to lunch. I, literally was tied to the desk for, the first several years of my career, and just grew an affinity and a love when I put, a particular campaign out there. I'll never forget the first campaign I did that was successful and created from nothing and launched, on a Monday, and the client calls and it was like, hey, whatever it is that you're doing, keep doing it. Our phone's ringing off the hook. We're getting a lot of bookings. It was a LASIK surgeon, and that feeling of being able to create something from nothing, just some ideas on what we think would work and what we think would really benefit their business, and then it delivers. I was hooked. And so that really started the journey in sales, and then led to sales management. And about 2 years into sales management, I was fortunate enough to be able to start the agency. So that was about 17 years ago now. So roughly a 20-year journey, but 17 years at this point as an agency owner.
My goodness, what a journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think I look at what you're doing, and it's unique because you're doing both traditional and digital. I find people typically are going to specialize in one or the other. You do a full service thing.
That's right. So I grew up on the traditional side of the fence, right? So, I love radio, love TV. That was our first department that we folded in, was media planning and buying, and then production. So we have our own production facilities and studios, and we were, frankly, it started with TV because we were, TV production rather, because if you don't have the spot that is supposed to run for the buy, your buy's not running, which means that the agency
That's
is
right.
not billing. So, or if you have a spot that is not the quality it needs to be, then it doesn't get the results and nobody's happy, right? So we folded in TV production and that department first. And then as the media landscape evolved, I felt remiss to not evolve with it. I felt like it was just an absolute must. And I didn't want to give up control of such a pivotal piece of performance media on the digital side, depending on where in the funnel we're focusing. But B, I just felt like, hey, the better service we can provide, the more we can add value at every step of the way, the deeper our relationship is going to be. And the better of a partner we can be, because we know that we do have visibility into all of it. We do have, real line of sight into what's working and what's not. And you know that as the media landscape and viewing habits have changed and evolved, you'll see a tremendous amount of what would be considered your offline media results showing in online trackable ways, right? They're going to the organic search to do the research. They're going and Googling the company once they see the TV spot or hear the radio ad. So having that be disconnected in my mind left a lot to be desired. So slowly but surely started folding it all in-house. And that was kind of the mantra from day one, is as soon as we could afford, and in a lot of cases not afford to do it, we did it anyway and did our best to make it all work and do what we felt was going to benefit the client at the end of the day.
That's just remarkable, Andrew. I watched my dad start a traditional advertising agency back in the early 70s, right? And, back then there's no digital, right? It's all TV, radio, newspapers, mailers.
Yep.
And to watch that industry change so much over those years and watch, agencies that start up digital, but don't really take into account the other side.
Yep.
Or that stick with the traditional and don't really envelop what's coming out new.
Sure.
I would imagine this requires you to stay on your game all the time when it comes to learning, because this is a field that changes every day.
Oh, I mean, look, I think that too, and it's funny when you see some of these job posts that are supposed to be a marketing director or a marketing coordinator, and they're supposed to be savvy in about every discipline possible, and they're supposed to have in-platform, knowledge of the ins and outs and the latest and greatest in all these platforms. And I would say that it is next to impossible for any one person to properly keep up with how quickly it is moving and evolving within these platforms. And so I think that as soon as we could, we developed a structure where we have independent directors that are responsible for the ins and outs of their platform. And they do run their teams that are only responsible for the ins and outs of their platforms. And I think that while, we have account directors that absolutely have some knowledge of how all platforms are evolving and changing and working for the client, it's an impossibility for one person at this stage of the game to truly be an expert in their craft in multiple digital disciplines. And so that's why it very quickly became obvious as things started evolving quicker and quicker, and now they're changing faster than ever, that you truly have to have people that are living and breathing their platform on a daily basis to be able to keep up.
Strategic thinking and intentional delegation, it seems like that's not optional for you.
Yeah, absolutely not. I think that the media landscape is changing so quickly that if you can't have a team around you that you absolutely trust to be experts in their craft and as we just mentioned, within their platform, you have to have people. We always say, is this somebody you want in the bunker with you? That's kind of our go-to saying around here. And we love and respect our teammates that we absolutely want them in the bunker with us, because you have to be able to let go and allow them to be that real master of their craft and come to the table with the action that needs to be taken for the client, and know that they're going to own that piece of it on behalf of the agency and on behalf of the client.
That's good. One of the challenges that I hear from a lot of agency owners is finding the right people. And there's so much churn and difficulty around retention because they're not a good fit culturally. They're not a good fit chemistry. They're not a good fit competencies that are needed. How
Sure.
do you find the right people for what you're doing?
I would say as we've grown as an agency and as we've learned more and more, we hire much slower.
Hmm.
I would say that, our process of identifying the right team members that are the right cultural fit, that are the
Yeah.
right, fit from an experience perspective and, just a general capabilities perspective. I think that process has gotten longer and longer as we've evolved as an agency. And I think
Hmm.
that, we've been very blessed though, that, some of the top talent that we have here is very quick once they join the team and really get to understand how we operate in the culture at the agency is very quick to bring other folks over. And
Hmm.
so we've been very fortunate in that regard as we've continue to grow and evolve that the true leaders and thought leaders in their space that we have on our team, they've worked with other great colleagues in the past. And so a big
Yeah.
source of the talent that we're fortunate enough to call our teammates has come from being teammates of other team members of ours in the past, which is always great because when you have full trust and faith that somebody is going to show up
Yeah.
and be a great teammate and get the job done at an impeccable level, and they're vouching fully for someone, that means an awful lot.
So true. I love that type of intentional networking. Who do you know that we should know? Who do you know that would be a good fit here? I love that. I think
Absolutely.
that's so useful.
Yep.
Somebody could look at you from the outside, Andrew, and I imagine be thinking, wow, well, yeah, he moved out to SoCal and everything since then has just been up and to the right. Like, he doesn't have any of the challenges that I have as an entrepreneur. He hasn't faced what I face. If somebody were to say that to you, what would your response be?
I'd get a great chuckle like I just did. I'll tell you, man, there have been more sleepless nights and stomach aches and still every day, right? The challenges, they're always there. They're just different as you
Yeah.
grow. And very early on, it was, the entire business was reliant on just a couple clients. And if one of them went away, I really wouldn't be able to make ends meet. I didn't know what I was going
Mhm.
to do, but I believed that we could do a better job than what we were seeing out there. I
Yeah.
believe that if we stayed working hard and grinding for our clients and protecting our clients and staying creative, that we could keep them evolving.
Hmm.
And we've been very fortunate to grow very organically as a result of that. But I think that, in the early stages, we had maybe 6 or 7 people working out of a bedroom in my house before we made the jump to get an office, and that was a big scary thing. And so we've gone through all the ups and downs. COVID hit, 90% of our billing went away overnight. I legitimately had no idea what I was going to do or how it was going to all come back together after that. But that was where we were left as an agency. And I didn't want to lay people off. We did not lay people off as a result. And it made for some pretty brutal personal circumstances financially during those times where, I had to make some really rough decisions. Um, you know, Emptying 401ks, refinancing the house, doing all these things to not lay people off and to make it work until we could get onto the other side.
Hmm.
And, as an entrepreneur, I have a deep seated commitment to my team. And I feel like that's the only way this works long term
Yeah.
is they see that, they feel that, they know that, and I make commitments and they mean the world to me to keep. And so if that means that I go through some personal struggle and personal pain and I'm fighting the good fight, that very, very few knew or know at the time, right? But I feel like that's the obligation that we take
Hmm.
on when we assure our teammates that they're going to be protected and that this is going to be a great opportunity for them. That's the obligation that I feel.
I think that is fantastic leadership, and I hope our listeners don't run past this because, Andrew, that's something not a lot of people would do. Sacrifice personally for the sake of the team. Sacrifice personally to make sure that you're not going to lay people off because the culture that you've built matters, and you want that on the other side of the crisis.
That's right. That's right. I just felt there is going to be another side of this, right?
Yeah.
This is just, one more down on the proverbial roller coaster of small business life, right?
Yeah.
And I always say I may not know how, but I know it's going to be okay, right?
Hmm.
And I
Yeah.
think that, it's our job and my job to lead by continuing to move through the most difficult situation, right? And
Yeah.
I think that, that is the one thing that I've made the commitment to myself, and much more importantly, made the commitment to the team that,
Yeah.
hey, irrespective of what percentage I feel I'm at for the day, you can bet your ass I'm showing up. And I'm going to put one foot in front of the other, and we're going to figure this out together. And I feel like that is the true meaning of a team is, we serve alongside each other. I'm the first one when a situation starts getting hairy with a client or whatever it is, I say, blame me, put it on me, put me on the call. Let's get together and figure it out. Right. And I think
Hmm.
that, when people feel like they have that level of support, nothing's perfect, but I feel like they're able to really focus on what they can do to make a positive impact in the situation and know that they will have the support and the resources to do the best job possible.
I think that is such a fantastic example of what Jim Collins calls a level 5 leader. That's the blend of humility, right? Understanding that, hey, I'm going to serve the team. I'm going to operate from a place of servant leadership,
Yep.
and incurable optimism that the best is yet to come. That doesn't mean you deny reality, what
For sure.
is, but you believe the best days are still ahead. And that's what I'm hearing from you.
Absolutely. Look, I think, the definition of toxic positivity is saying there is no problem when there's an obvious problem, right? So, I feel like, sometimes it's a fine line, but I absolutely believe that I'm blown away if I take a step back, which I rarely do. And I know I need to be better about doing, at how far we've come. People ask the question all the time, what's your 3-year plan, 5-year plan, whatever it is, right? And I think that I've always been obsessed with the process, and I've
Mm,
always found a lot more peace of mind in the process, right? Let's
mm,
focus on the right things. Let's
yeah,
focus on ensuring that we're doing everything we can for the client to win. And as
yeah,
long as we're centered around that and focused on that, and we've got the right team in place to focus that has the technical capability, the mindset, the attitude that we're going to do everything it takes for that client to win, and we come together as a team to do so.
mm.
I'm blown away by what we've accomplished to this point, and do really believe that we are just getting going as an agency because we continue to be stronger and stronger as a team.
Hmm. So good. A lot of people listening may be looking at you too and saying, wow, he's leading multiple companies as CEO. I struggle enough just to lead one, but man, I think I'd like to move that direction. If you were talking to somebody over coffee and they really want to move in that direction of being a multi-company CEO, is there any advice that you would give to them?
I would start with why.
Hmm.
I mean, honestly, I would like to build an understanding of why that is appealing,
Yeah.
why they feel like that is the route they want to go.
Hmm.
And the reason I say that is because in this instance, this was a very natural evolution, a
Hmm.
very natural incubation of the second product within the agency first. And
Hmm.
so we've got some very creative, very savvy folks that saw an opportunity to build something that would be a phenomenal solution for a lot of our clients. And so they
Hmm.
set out to just, um, you know, build a proper solution for a problem that an agency client was facing.
Hmm.
And ultimately, another company was birthed as a result of that. And
Hmm.
so I think that it wasn't my intention to be a multi company CEO. It was my intention to build a solution for a problem we knew was very pervasive. And so, when I look at it, um, it's like a second child to me because that's ultimately how it came to be.
Yeah.
Was we felt we could come together as a team and solve a problem that a lot of companies faced, and we were
Hmm.
successful in doing so. And the natural evolution and the natural trajectory of that project took it to be a separate company with a separate, completely separate team, and all that comes along with it. And
Yeah.
so I would say it was a very natural progression and not something that I set out to be a multi-company CEO. It's
Hmm.
legitimately something that took on a life of its own, and I'm grateful that it did.
I love the organic nature of that. That this was not something where you're like, "Hey, I want to I want this, to build yourself up, to build
Right.
your kingdom, so to speak. This was organic. And I think
Absolutely.
there's a lot of wisdom there for people who are listening.
Yeah, and look, I think that there is to me it was never really the mission to build a separate company. It was the mission to build a solution, and the
Yeah.
solution just ended up being a separate company, right? And I think
Yeah.
that agency life kind of leads itself, or kind of lends itself to, if you're a good agency partner, you're talking about the problems your clients are facing. You're talking
That's
about
right.
the issues that are hindering their operation or hindering progress or conversion or closes or increased revenue. We want to identify what the things are that they're struggling with, and see what we can do as a real business partner to help solve
Mm,
real business problems. Because what
mm,
it comes down to is, if that handoff between marketing and operations isn't as seamless or efficient as it can be, we're never going to optimize to the fullest of our ability. And so I look at our job as an agency as well beyond the marketing and advertising side through to the operational side. Because if we are not in there trying to focus on how these spots or these ads or whatever it is are driving additional opportunities for their team, but further driving additional revenue for their business, that's
mhm.
how we can be the best possible partner. So we go beyond clicks and conversions into real revenue, real opportunities, real business increases. That's when we feel like we're doing the job we need to do.
Hmm. Almost like a strategy partner, a growth
Absolutely.
partner. You're going to come alongside and help them see what they can't see to help them go where they want to go.
Absolutely. Yeah. So we've built platforms that show that real end to end journey, as a
Mm,
result of just needing something better to be able to see everything in one place. And, not all companies have that level of visibility into
yeah.
that handoff between marketing or advertising and operations to really see the net result at the end of the day. And it's important to us to know that we're
Mm.
not only running healthy campaigns, but that they're making a real positive business impact.
Well, I think you measure what matters.
That's
And
right.
it sounds like that you are doing a fantastic job of helping your clients do just that.
William, just trying to be better every day, man. That's our
That's
mantra
it,
around
right?
here, is students every day.
That's it every day. Let's talk about that for just a minute around your leadership. A year from now, 3 years from now, 5 years from now, your companies are going to need you to lead at a higher level. They're
Sure.
going to need more from you.
Yep.
What are you doing to stay on top of your game and continue to level up with the new leadership skills that your teams and your companies are going to need you to have?
Well, I think that any good relationship really starts with trust
Mhm,
and has a lot of accountability in the mix. And
mhm,
so, what we are trying to do as companies and our leadership teams within the companies is have a lot of open dialogue and healthy debate about where we're
mm,
going as a company. And we all need to be held accountable for the work that we're doing to continue to advance as people,
yeah,
as leaders, and collectively as a team and company that is trying to be that better every day, right? And so
mm,
I think that, I come in, and one, I think that it's my job to ensure that each leader within the company, and ultimately each team member within the company, has the resources and the knowledge they need to do a damn good job and feel
yeah,
like they are able to do the job they want to do. Because I
yeah,
think that as you level up as a team and as you get team members that actually care about the job they're doing, and really, detest the idea of phoning it in,
yeah,
um, those are the types of people that we love having on our team, and we're blessed with an unbelievable amount of them. But it starts there, right? Do you
mm,
have the continuing education, the training, the tools, the knowledge to be able to operate at that next level, right?
mm,
And so that's where it starts. But then I think it goes a layer deeper, into creating an environment where it's safe to talk about the problems, right? I
mm,
think that, when you mentioned a level 5 leader, and we're actually, it's really funny that you said that, because as a leadership team, we're reading Good to Great together right now. And so, we're talking about, all sorts of, leadership styles, and
yeah,
the ultimate rise and fall of a lot of at one time great companies, right? But I
yep,
think what that brings about is being able to um, acknowledge where
mhm,
we're doing a great job, and also have an open conversation about where we're not, about where we need to put in more time, effort, energy, where we feel like we have the largest opportunity to improve. And that absolutely starts with me. And I have open dialogue with my leadership team and my company in my full company meeting as recently as yesterday, talking about how we have to have an environment where good, bad, and different, you have a vote if you raise your hand. And let's deal with problems early before they escalate, just like any relationship. Let's not let things bubble up. Let's not let things go from just a little bit upsetting to toxic, right? Let's deal with them early. Let's come together and build solutions. That way we don't get to that point where, we're ultimately not performing at our best because we're so frustrated, or because a process isn't working, or whatever we don't have a given tool, whatever the case may be. There's 100 things that go on in the business any given day for any given team member. But just cultivating an environment where we can talk about those things and know that it's safe to deal with them together, and to raise your hand and talk about what's not working, just like you do what is.
I think that openness and that transparency is one of the secrets of your success, and why your team is operating at the peak performance level that it is, because you invite that type of feedback. You don't just tell them, I want this once a year when you do a review.
Right.
You're asking for it all the time.
These are everyday conversations, my friend. It really is. And it's always an interesting dynamic when you have people that are coming from environments where it was absolutely not that way. Don't you dare disagree with a leader or a manager, right? And definitely don't do it in public or in a group setting or whatever it is. So we have a commandment within the agency. It's direct with respect, right? So we have to be able to speak to each other directly. Let's not mince words. Everybody's busy. We're dealing with real problems, trying to solve real problems. We've all got personal and professional things that we're dealing with as humans at the end of the day, but we better do it with respect. And so I always invite the direct conversation, but it needs to be like you are having that conversation with the person that you respect the most, irrespective who you're talking to. So direct with respect is a very big thing around here.
I love that phrase. I've never heard that before. Direct with respect.
That's
I
right.
talk about the last 10% of honesty. And this is something that I've talked with our team about for many, many years. The first 90% of honesty is so easy to give to one another. But we often hold back the last 10% because that's the part that, might make people feel uncomfortable, or might run across somebody's toes, or might damage or even break a relationship.
Sure.
The problem is that last 10% is where the magic lives. That's where transformation is. And so we have conversations where I say, I don't just want the last 10% from you. I need it. We need it to get better organizationally. That's what that sounds like to me. Direct with respect.
That's right. Yeah. Look, I think that last 10%, and I don't know what all that encompasses in your mind, but when I think of that, I think it is the unpleasant conversation that, frankly, can be viewed as confrontational, or anytime you're addressing something that, needs improvement, or that someone did that had a real negative impact on another team member or whatever it is. Nobody likes having those conversations, but I think that over the years, you see how much more important it is to be able to have that openness and that open dialogue about what somebody's doing great and really excelling with, but then where we need to work, right? Where do we need to put in the work? And I am not immune to that. I want that feedback. I need that feedback. And so I think when people just see it, it's through and through within the agency. If there's a problem, we're going to come together as adults and we're going to talk about it. And we're going to talk just like this. And we're going to speak out of respect to another professional and to a peer and to a teammate, but we're not going to let it fester. We're not going to let it, continue to simmer. And I think that dealing with those things professionally and respectfully has made us so much stronger as a team. That last 10% that may be viewed as a little bit unpleasant is essential to move forward as connected as you need to really operate at the level that we want to.
And you set the tone for that as the leader. If you receive that well, when somebody gives you that direct feedback, if you respond well and people see that, they're going to be more apt to follow. That's more caught than taught. So kudos to you for that.
And I hope that this is okay for me to say. If not, you can bleep it out. But we have another commandment at the agency that says if you're going to eat shit, don't nibble. And so, so, and so I will be the first to raise my hand and say, guys, I made a mistake, right? I blew it.
Yeah.
I did not do what I did not handle this situation well. Here's the mistake I made. I was thinking this. This did not happen. I did not make the right decision, right?
Yeah.
But here's how I'm going to move forward better as a result. Here's what this means to me. Here's how we can be better. Here's how I'm going to be better for you and not make the same mistake twice or make a better decision next time, right? And so I think when you have people that are willing, especially in a leadership position, for us in the leadership team, and I think that that's where that ultimate accountability starts, but that doesn't always have to be one person trying to bring the accountability out of somebody else. I think that when you can raise your hand, I made a mistake. Here's how I'm going to be better moving forward. And I think that ultimately really harvests the environment we mentioned earlier, where you can move forward much quicker when mistakes are made. You can move forward better when mistakes are made. You can move forward with more people being involved in crafting an appropriate solution and in correcting that mistake much quicker. When you raise your hand and say, this is on me, I blew it. Here's what I think we should do. What do you guys think? Right? It's a lot easier conversation to have when you start there. When you start to have a conversation with somebody about, hey, this is what happened. Do we know why this happened? And they start blaming, Tom, Dick, and Harry and no sleep the night before and, their cat's sick or like whatever it is, right? Like we all have those things, but it gets so much easier when you just raise your hand and say, yeah, I blew it. I'm a human. I made a bad decision, or I didn't see this consequence coming, but it did. Now we're here. Let's go ahead and let's get to fixing it, right? That way we can have the conversation with the client and say, client, this happened. We didn't intend for it to happen. This was the consequence. Here's the solution that we think makes this right. That's it, right? You hit it straight on. You talk about the problem, but you talk about the corresponding solution immediately. And so I think that's the biggest thing that I think, it makes such a massive impact in our ability to move forward quicker as a team. Just admit it, own it, let's go.
I love that. You mentioned earlier that you're going through a book with your team right now. Good to Great. Classic, fantastic book.
Absolutely.
Is there a book that for you personally has made a big difference in your journey that you would recommend to the leaders who are listening?
Oh man, I mean, I would say honestly, Good to Great is one that, I mean, it's funny that we were talking about it, referenced it a couple of times, but I think their presentation of unequivocally valid data is something that is just so unbelievably impactful, as it relates to so much of the journey, right? And it debunks so much of what people kind of see and hear and envision when they think of some of the companies that have gone on that journey from good to great. But I also think that another one that comes to mind for me is Atomic Habits. It's not going to be not going to be a big surprise to anybody, but I think that was one that was very meaningful to me, just in terms of relatability. And how the micro decisions of who you want to be all add up very quickly and stack very quickly to who you become, right? And making those micro decisions through the lens of what does the person I want to be do in this situation, right? And I think that's just the parallels from life and business and personal are so strong that I feel like that book just connects on so many levels.
Both fantastic reads. Definitely great recommendations there. Often, Andrew, people are going to walk away from a conversation like this with one big idea. If you could define what you want that takeaway to be, what would you want that to be?
The big idea for us, and I think for me and everybody that is part of our charge, I feel, is how are we going to create more value tomorrow than we are today for our clients? And you don't have to sacrifice being there for your team to do it. And I feel like so many people envision this kind of crazy, cutthroat environment where, that can, be a pervasive thought in a lot of instances. And I think that we wanted to go about it the opposite way, where we can have awesome team members that we love and want to be part of what we're going through as team members because they're unbelievably talented, but that we love as people and that we appreciate and respect as people. And so when you're coming together, feeling like we are not wasting time, energy on things that don't matter for our clients, we focus on what matters. We focus on moving the ball down the field in a very business aligned way, but we're able to do it with people that we believe in, that we want on our side, and that are really awesome people. And I think that those two things coming together, when you focus on what matters to your clients, and when you're working with people that have that same passion and fire and talent, but a level of inherent respect and appreciation, I think that combination over time is just so meaningful. So I think those are the things that have been, the biggest, as we evolve as an agency, really the biggest pieces of our journey and the most meaningful pieces of our journey.
So good. I know folks are going to want to stay connected with you and continue to learn from you. Andrew, this has been so incredible today. What is the best way for people to do that?
Always on social, Andrew Palosi, that's Palosi. I have promised myself, as uncomfortable as it is for me personally, that I am going to, get out there a little bit more aggressively and show people a little more of the work that we're doing, who we are as a team, our belief system. And I was terrible about it and fought it for so many years, but I'm forcing myself to do it. So social is great. I'd say it's the easiest way to stay connected.
I love that. I would encourage our listeners to check out what they're doing, because obviously something amazing is going on there. And I believe you can learn from anybody. And sometimes you learn exactly what you need. And I think today, Andrew, you have shared so much that has been so practical. And I'm so grateful for that.
Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for having me. The conversation's been awesome. So truly appreciate it.
Thanks for joining me for this episode today. As we wrap up, I'd love for you to do two things. First, subscribe to this podcast so you don't miss an episode. And if you find value here, I'd love it if you would rate it and review it. That really does make a difference in helping other people to discover this podcast. Second, if you don't have a copy of my newest book, Catalytic Leadership, I'd love to put a copy in your hands. If you go to catalyticleadershipbook.com, you can get a copy for free. Just pay the shipping so I can get it to you, and we'll get one right out. My goal is to put this into the hands of as many leaders as possible. This book captures principles that I've learned in 20 plus years of coaching leaders in the entrepreneurial space, in business, government, nonprofits, education, and the local church. You can also connect with me on LinkedIn to keep up with what I'm currently learning and thinking about. And if you're ready to take a next step with a coach to help you intentionally grow and thrive as a leader, I'd be honored to help you. Just go to catalyticleadership.net to book a call with me. Stay tuned for our next episode next week. Until then, as always, leaders, choose to be catalytic.
Thanks for listening to Catalytic Leadership with Dr. William Attaway. Be sure to subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts so you don't miss the next episode. Want more? Go to catalyticleadership.net.